So check this out. Many of you might agree with me when I say football isn't the same anymore. And honestly, it's because of Messi and Ronaldo. For the last 16 years, they've set the bar so high that now when we talk about players like Mbappe, Vinny Jr, and Haaland as the best in the world, it just feels kind of underwhelming, right? Let's use Messi as an example. In 2009, at just 22 years old, he'd already won the Ballon d'Or and carried Barcelona to 6 club trophies in a single year. He scored 43 goals and assisted 19, all while going up against the likes of Van der Sar, Casillas, Evra, John Terry, Ramos, Pepe, and Carvalho, the elite of defenders. And let's be real, today's players are sweating over defenders like Eder Militão and Ronald Araujo. So what does all of this mean? Well, in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into what I think is the peak of Messi's career from 2009 to 2015, in order to really grasp the levels that stars today need to reach to be comparable to the GOATs. So back to 2009, and contrary to what I said earlier about Barcelona winning 6 trophies that year, they actually started off the season terribly wrong, losing to CD Numancia, a team that I'm certain many of you don't even know. After the match, every media outlet you could think of was bashing Barcelona, so you know Messi had to step up. And in the next match, he opened the scoring against Racing Santander in the 70th minute. But 6 minutes later, Jonathan Pereira would equalize as the match ended 1-1. With Ronaldo favored to win the Ballon d'Or in December, the spotlight was on him to deliver. However, 2 games in, Barca had a loss and a draw. And to make matters worse, in their 3rd game against Sporting, Messi didn't register a single goal or assist as Barca won 3-1. It was September 21st, 2009, and Barcelona traveled to the El Molinón Stadium to face Gijón. They hadn't yet won a league match, and Messi had only 1 goal to his name. It was now or never. Referee Carlos Davila blew the whistle, and it was underway. 27 minutes in, and Xavi made it 1-0. 6 minutes later, Ito struck, and it was 2-0. The goals kept coming in, and by full time, it was 6-1 to Barcelona, with Messi bagging a brace. Having recovered his form, Messi would go on to put up 62 goal contributions for club and country that year, winning the first ever sextuple in football history. But the tides were turning. Ronaldo was on the move to link up with Kaká at Real Madrid. Sneijder and Eto'o was heading to Inter, and Robben was off to Bayern. The top clubs in Europe were strengthening their rank, and with the World Cup to come later on, the 2009 to 2010 season was going to be a stunner, and Messi had his eyes set on conquering every tournament. Speaking of conquering, I would love if you guys helped me to conquer YouTube by liking the video and subscribing, so we can make fans around the world relive the best football moments in history. I appreciate you watching. Like I had said earlier, with Ronaldo and other stars moving to their new clubs, the 2009 to 10 season was highly anticipated. It began with Barcelona going up against Bilbao in the Spanish Super Cup. Messi was absent for this match, and with Eto'o gone, Barca was missing a lot of firepower. And it only got worse when DeMarcos fired a left-footed shot into the net just before halftime. But in typical fashion, Xavi and Pedro would secure the W for Barca in the second half of the first leg. The second leg came around, and Messi returned with 2 goals, as Barca won 3-0 to lift the cup with a 5-1 aggregate, securing his first trophy of the season. He would lift his second trophy just 5 days later by assisting Pedro in extra time to beat Shakhtar 1-0 in the UEFA Super Cup. But now it was time for the league to begin, and everyone, including myself, was looking forward to the Messi-Ronaldo rivalry, and boy did it kick off intensely. The first match in, and Ronaldo scored on his debut to beat Deportivo 3-2. Messi was absent in Barcelona's first match, but he would return in the second to score in a 2-0 beatdown of Getafe. But Ronaldo was on fire. He would go on to score 5 goals in his first 5 games. But you know who else had 5 goals in 5 games? Messi, including a brace against Atletico Madrid. Ronaldo would unfortunately pick up an ankle injury which kept him out for 13 games, but Messi kept going. And he led Barcelona to an 11-game unbeaten run in the league, scoring 7 goals. Ronaldo would return on November 29th, just in time to play the El Clasico, and the rivalry everyone wanted to see was here. Messi versus Ronaldo. The El Clasico. Back then, this game was one of the most anticipated game of all time, and the Camp Nou was buzzing. The players stood face to face at both sides of the pitch. The fans' screams echoed all around as referee Undiano Malenko blew the whistle and got the match underway. As expected, the game started off intensely. Early on, Messi played a backheel pass to Alves, who fired the ball into the stands, and that got the crowd roaring. Seconds later, Ronaldo eased past Puyol to set up Marcelo, who skied his shot. Messi then took the ball and dribbled past 3 defenders to set up Henry, who hit it straight at the keeper. And similarly, Kaká made an incredible dribble to send Ronaldo one-on-one against the keeper, but he hit it straight at him. The match was intense. But one thing was clear to everyone. Both Messi and Ronaldo weren't at their best. Messi was by far the better player on the pitch, but they weren't playing at the level we were expecting. Zlatan would end up scoring the only goal in the match, and Ronaldo would be subbed off due to him recovering from an injury, and Barcelona would win 1-0. But it wasn't the match we were expecting, so fans eagerly awaited the rematch. Messi would go on to lead Barcelona to a 21-game unbeaten run in the league, with 16 goals and 8 assists, before Atletico defeated them 2-1. But elsewhere in the Champions League, he was running amok, scoring 4 goals against Arsenal in the quarterfinals to bring his tally to 8 goals. And by April 2010, Barcelona was first in the league and was into the semi-final in the Champions League, with Messi having 34 goals. At this point, Messi was the favorite to win the Ballon d'Or, and everyone called him an alien, a magician, the best we've ever seen. And when it came time to face Inter in the UCL, everyone backed him to carry Barca to the win. But for the first time in his career, Messi ran into a team that was dead set on stopping him, and he was helpless. Inter had 3 players marking him at all times, and Jose Mourinho's team would nullify the magician and knocked Barcelona out of the competition. It was a sad end for the reigning champion, but they had to put this loss behind them quickly because even though Barcelona was top of the league, Real Madrid was 1 point behind them with 4 games to go. And for Messi, it was a second chance for him to redeem himself. The fixtures would see Barca go up against Villarreal, Tenerife, Sevilla, and Valladolid in those final games. And as if he was out for revenge, Messi ruthlessly smashed 7 goals in those 4 games to give Barcelona the league title, ending the season as the league's top scorer with 34 goals and 5 trophies. But with the Champions League evading his grasp, Messi somehow felt that he didn't achieve everything he set out to achieve that year. So come June 11th, 2010, he was determined to take home the World Cup. The 2010 World Cup was a special one. It was the first time that a World Cup would be held in Africa, and not just that. We had the likes of Shakira and Khan blessing us with iconic songs like Waka Waka and Wave Your Flag, adding to the anticipation and excitement. And as for the teams, well, there was Brazil led by Kaká. Germany had the likes of Klose, Schweinsteiger, and Lahm. Argentina had Messi and Tevez. Portugal had Ronaldo. Uruguay had Suarez and Forlan. Spain had basically Real Madrid and Barcelona combined, and many other powerhouses were present, so it wasn't going to be an easy task for Messi to win this trophy. It's also important to point out that this was Messi's first World Cup as one of the best players in the world. He had made his debut in the 2006 World Cup, but he wasn't a first-team player. And fast forward to 2010, he established himself as a star with Barcelona. But the 2010 World Cup would be his chance to make a statement on the global stage. Argentina kicked off the tournament against Nigeria, and after South Africa pulled off a stunning 1-1 draw against prime Mexico, the African teams proved that they weren't going to be easy to beat, and that's exactly what Messi would learn in this match. The match started off with Nigeria on the offense, but in the second match against South Korea, he had an instant impact, causing an own goal from his free kick. But just like the match before, Argentina wasn't the best defensively, and Korea would equalize, and at one point even had a chance to take the lead, but Argentina would push through to win 4-1, and even though Messi didn't score, he was very influential in all 4 goals. Things would unfortunately go the same way in the final group game for Messi. He had good moments, hitting the post and making good dribbles, but still failed to score in the end. But nonetheless, his team won 2-0, and that's all that matters. So we have reached the round of 16, and among the teams remaining, we had Brazil, Mexico, Germany, Spain, Portugal, etc. But the biggest shocker was the elimination of France, who ended their group with only a single point. Argentina was drawn against Mexico in the round of 16, and this match saw Messi grab his first goal contribution by assisting Tevez with the first goal of the game. Tevez would go on to score one of the goals of the tournament, leading the team to a 3-1 win over Mexico. He was the man in the headlines, and many people called him Argentina's best player. And when they were knocked out by Germany a few days later, losing 4-0, and Messi ending the tournament with 0 goals. Well, it wasn't pretty. Although Messi didn't score, his overall contributions of making amazing runs, drawing defenders, and creating space were pivotal in Argentina reaching the quarterfinals. But in a sport where goals and assists are what matters for an attacker, people began to say he'd never be as good as Maradona, nor does he have what it takes to lead his country. And it didn't help when Spain won the tournament, because now they were even saying that the Barcelona team was the only place Messi could perform, because they had the best players. And it gets even worse. Messi would pick up his second Ballon d'Or in the 2010 ceremony, despite failing to win the World Cup or Champions League. Back then, many people felt that FIFA showed favoritism in giving him the award over Iniesta and Xavi, who both won the World Cup and also won everything else Messi won since they were on the same club team. There were even claims for Snyder to win it. But one thing was for sure, Messi had to prove himself in 2011, because despite relative success with Barcelona, he failed his country and he had people saying he was FIFA's son, so he had to prove to everyone again that he was above the rest. It was August 14th, 2010, just 1 month after the World Cup had ended and Barcelona had their first competitive match of the season against Seville in the Spanish Super Cup. The headlines of the World Cup were still fresh on everyone's mind. On one hand, Spain and half of Messi's teammates were still in celebrations, but as for Messi, he was still being ridiculed as a flop for his country. This man had 58 goal contributions at the end of the season, yet people still questioned if he was the real deal, so he had only one thing on his mind to prove he was the best. The season kicked off with a shocking defeat for Barcelona, losing to Seville 3-1. Messi was subbed on in the 58th minute, but he wasn't able to make an impact. With this defeat, you already know what the narrative was going to be. So when the second leg came around, Messi made sure to land an incredible hat-trick to win the tie for Barcelona. The league season kicked off on August 29th, and Messi grabbed a goal in their opening match, beating Racing Santander 3-0. However, on match day 2, they were absolutely trashed by Hercules, losing 2-0. That week was filled with critique from pundits, especially the fact that in just a few days, Barcelona would go up against Atletico on match day 3. But before that, they would kick kick off their European campaign against Panathinaikos at home in midweek. But as if they were after revenge for the loss at Hercules, Barcelona ruthlessly trashed them 5-1, with Messi grabbing 2 goals and 2 assists, and come that following weekend, he'd grab another goal and assist to carry Barca to a 2-1 win over Atletico. But unfortunately, he'd pick up an injury in stoppage time, causing him to miss the next 2 league games. He would return to action on September 29th against Rubin Kazan in the Champions League, but only for 30 minutes, failing to make an impact as they drew 1-1. He'd pick back up his goal-scoring form against Mallorca in a 1-1 draw, and would go on to put up an astonishing 15 goals and 5 assists in his next 10 games. At this point in the season, Messi had 20 goals and 8 assists in 18 games, and the match that followed was going to be the El Clasico on November 29th, 2010. The lineup in this match was insane. Madrid had Ronaldo, Benzema, Di Maria, Ozil, and Xabi Alonso, while Barcelona had Messi, Villa, Pedro, Iniesta, Xavi, and Busquets. It was filled with stars all around the pitch, so it came as a surprise that at full time the scoreline was Barcelona 5, Real Madrid 0. Messi didn't score in this match, but he managed to steal the spotlight with what people call the coldest walk of the century, as he exited the pitch staring at the scoreboard with a smirk on his face. At this point, Barcelona was unstoppable. They had only 1 loss in 13 league matches, and they would further extend that run to 1 loss in 33 games, until they were defeated 2-1 by Real Sociedad. But at this point, it didn't matter, because after they completed all 38 league games, they had only 2 losses. And since that Madrid match that I mentioned earlier, Messi went on to score 18 goals and 13 assists in the following 22 games, ending the season with 31 goals and 21 assists in 33 league games. But what about the Champions League? Well, they made it out the group with relative ease, and Messi finished the group phase with 6 goals and 2 assists, but they were handed their first real test in Arsenal at the round of 16. Arsenal would put up a phenomenal display to beat Barca 2-1 in the first leg, but come the second, Messi would score a brace to turn things around as Barca won 3-1 and 4-3 on aggregate. They would cruise past Shakhtar in the quarterfinals to set up an El Clasico matchup in the semis, and 2 goals from Messi in the first leg would see them ease past Madrid to take the win, and in the second leg they played to a 1-1 draw to set up a finals against Manchester United at Wembley. With the finals being held in England, you would think United had an advantage, and to be fair, they started off as the better team with some really good through balls, but they were either offside or Valdez would make the saves. Barcelona would step things up with Messi and Villa, but Ferdinand would shut them out. Seconds later, Pedro had a golden chance but fired it wide, and after that, Barcelona was relentless. They took control of the game and United was trapped in their own half. Villa, Alves, Messi, Pedro, they were having a field day tormenting United, and it didn't take long for Pedro to slot home for Barca after a lovely run from Xavi. But United wasn't down for long, as Giggs pulled it back for Rooney, who struck it home superbly to level the match. After that, the match was pretty much end-to-end. But in the second half, as if it was inevitable, Messi slotted home to put Barca in front, and later on in the game, Villa would finish United off, ending the match 3-1. Messi was once again the European champion, and with the criticism he received after the World Cup and the Ballon d'Or, he proved to everyone what we already knew, that this man was the best in the world. The 2010-11 season was a success. European champion, Spanish champion, and Super Cup winner, finishing the season with a total of 53 goals and 23 assists. He was undoubtedly the Ballon d'Or winner for 2011. Ronaldo came close. He had 53 goals as well and 16 assists. Not to mention he outscored Messi in the league with 40 goals, but Messi won the major tournaments, so he was undoubtedly the Golden Ball winner. But with Ronaldo being this close to him, despite it being only his second season at Madrid, many felt that Cristiano was going to surpass him very soon, and there's no doubt that Messi noticed this. So come 2012, it was going to be war. The war between the two didn't take long to kickstart, because their first 2 fixtures of the season were back-to-back El Clasico in the Spanish Super Cup. Madrid started off the match by scoring first, with Benzema and Ozil linking up to slot home in 13 minutes, and the entire Bernabeu was roaring, but Villa would silence the crowd with one of the most beautiful goals you'll ever see in a Clasico. Minutes later, it became the Messi show, as he shushed the Bernabeu completely with his signature dribble and finish, but the Bernabeu would roar again, when Alonso scored from the edge of the box to put an end to a stunning match between the two. The second leg was equally impressive, as early on, Messi would split Madrid's midfield and backline to set up Iniesta, who calmly finished. But soon after, Cristiano Ronaldo would respond with a tap-in from Benzema's cross. But like I had said earlier, 2012 was going to be war. So you know, Messi wasn't going to let that slide. So he would respond with a superb finish, weaving his way through Madrid's defense, making it 2-1. But Madrid wasn't done. They would scramble one back through Benzema late on to level the match. But just when it looked like we were heading for extra time, Messi volleyed home from Adriano's cross to win the match. Barcelona were on a mission to dominate European football, and they were handing out 5-0 and 4-0 to everyone. They scored 8 against Osasuna, 5 against Atletico, 5 for Boristov, 5 to Mallorca, 4 against Pilsen, Zaragoza, Vallecano. Levante picked up 5, and they ruthlessly scored 9 against Hospitalet in the Copa del Rey. They were wreaking havoc, and by February 26th, 2012, Messi had 42 goals and 22 assists in all club competitions. But at this point as well, Madrid were 10 points ahead of them in the league, so despite them scoring this much, Barca still needed him to do more. And Messi would go on to put up 5 goals in a single match against Leverkusen in the Champions League, becoming the first player to accomplish such a feat. He just just couldn't stop scoring, even going on to score in 8 consecutive league games, putting up an astonishing 13 goals and 6 assists. At this point, Barcelona were heavily dependent on Messi creating goals, so when he came up against Chelsea and failed to have much of an impact and missed a crucial penalty, nobody else was there to step up and be decisive. Iniesta and Busquets tried, but Chelsea would knock them out and go on to win the competition. And in the league, Madrid was running away with it. And after they defeated Barca 2-1 on match day 35, everyone knew it was all over. Messi would go on to put up 9 goals and 3 assists in their last 4 league games, recording an incredible 50 league goals for the season, a record that still stands to this day, finishing the season with 4 trophies and a record-breaking 91 goals in a calendar year. Barcelona might have lost the Spanish League and the Champions League, but Messi was undeniable. He set out to prove that he was king, and he did just that. He had all the records that year, and when it came time to pick the Ballon d'Or winner, the decision was unanimous. The 2012/13 season is one that will prove how today's players might never reach the levels of Lionel Messi. Let me explain. 2013 was the rise of Cristiano Ronaldo. Just like last year, the first match of the season was an El Clasico, which Madrid won on away goals after the match ended 4-4. Ronaldo and Messi both scored twice over the 2 legs, but it was Ronaldo who came out the victor. Like I had mentioned in the 2010 season, many believed that after Cristiano settled in Madrid, he would start to challenge Messi as the best in the world. Ronaldo would put up 12 goals in the UCL and another 34 in La Liga, ending the season with 55 goals in total. Messi, however, scored 60 goals and won the league title, but based on performances, Ronaldo was handed the Ballon d'Or, despite not winning the league nor Champions League and having less goals than Messi. Players today like Mbappe and Vini are not capable of scoring 46 league goals in Spain, and if by some miracle they ended a season with 60 goals, it would be a huge accomplishment. But Messi accomplished this feat in what many and even he himself would deem a failure of a season: 60 goals, 15 assists, and 1 trophy. In other words, stats that failed to win the Ballon d'Or a decade ago is considered almost unreachable in today's game. The 2013-14 season was going to be a special one for Messi. That year, the 2014 World Cup was going to be held in Brazil, giving him another chance to prove himself internationally. Among other things, Barcelona had just signed Neymar a few months ago, and this was done with the intention of adding more world-class talents to help Messi up top, because since 2011, Barcelona had become heavily dependent on Messi to win titles. But with Neymar winning the Confederations Cup and becoming the new superstar of Brazilian football, Barcelona fans were excited to see the two play together. The league season kicked off with Barca destroying Levante 7-0. Messi grabbed a brace to make a statement at the beginning of the campaign, but the second match would be the beginning of Messi's biggest obstacle that year: thigh injury. He would miss the second game, but returned for the following 5, putting up 6 goals and 2 assists before the injury would act up again in October. Similarly to last time, he would make a return for 5 games, but he wasn't himself, scoring only 1 goal before going out injured again, this time for 5 weeks. During this time, Barcelona did pretty well, only losing 1 match in 18 games. Neymar had 14 goal contributions, but when Messi returned, Neymar would pick up an ankle injury of his own. But luckily for Barca, Messi was slowly getting back to his best, scoring 17 goals in his next 14 league games. In the Champions League, he was plagued by injuries, but still managed to rack up 8 goals by time they got to the quarterfinals. So, for context, at this point it was April 1st, 2014, and Messi had 23 league goals, 8 Champions League goals, and 5 in Copa del Rey, despite missing 12 games and was on the bench for a few more. Barcelona were going up against Atletico in the Champions League semi-finals, and this was going to be a blockbuster match. Atletico Madrid were leading the La Liga table and having the season of their life. The first leg was an absolute stunner with Atletico scoring first, but Neymar would level the match, ending it in a draw. In the second leg, Koke would win it for Atletico to set up a All-Madrid finals with Real Madrid. In the end, the season ended with Atletico winning the league and Real Madrid winning the Champions League. Cristiano would beat Messi yet again to the Ballon d'Or. This could have gone a different way if Messi had won the World Cup, but despite his brilliant performances, scoring 4 goals and dragging Argentina to the finals, Argentina wastefully squandered chance after chance and would eventually lose to Germany. At the end of the 2014 season, Barcelona had recruited another assassin from South America. He was quite the controversial pick. One week he was scoring screamers out of this world, and the next week he was biting players and getting kicked out of the World Cup. And that man is Luis Suarez. Messi now had 2 reliable partners up front, but conquering Europe was going to be no easy feat, so the MSN had a hard task to accomplish. First game was Elche, where Messi bagged a brace as Barca won 3-0. He would assist Neymar twice in the third game to run out 2-0 winners against Bilbao, and next week he'd do it again against Levante, with 2 assists and a goal to carry his side to a 5-0 win. Luis Suarez was still suspended at this point. He was given a 4-month ban by the sports court for biting Chiellini in the World Cup. This made him miss 11 matches for Barcelona, and on his return, he'd be in the squad to take on Real Madrid. Suarez made an instant impact as he set up Neymar in the 4th minute to send Barcelona into the lead, but the day would end in disappointment for the Blaugrana as they lost 3-1 at full time. The defeat would be a wake-up call for Barcelona. The MSN would go on a rampage, winning 11 of their next 14 league games, with Messi scoring 19 goals and 8 assists. Neymar had had 8 goals and 5 assists, and Suarez would put up 4 goals and 8 assists. At this point, Messi was back to his best, and he was scoring week in, week out, and in the Copa del Rey, he delivered an iconic performance in the finals, scoring 2 goals to lift the title. Back in the league, Barcelona would go unbeaten in their next 14 games, putting up an astonishing 43 goals, 17 belonging to Messi, 12 for Suarez, and 5 for Neymar. They absolutely destroyed their opponents. Neymar and Messi were a menace on the ball. Suarez might not have been as skilled as they were, but he was equally gifted when it came to putting the ball in the net. Barcelona would dethrone Real Madrid to win the league with 94 points, 2 ahead of Madrid, and Messi finished with 43 league goals. The Champions League was also heating up. They had blown past Manchester City and PSG in the quarterfinals and round of 16. But now it was time to take on Bayern, a team that was coached by Guardiola, who you could say made Messi the player he is. So if anyone was going to stop Messi, it would be him. The game started off with Suarez causing major problems for Bayern, but there was no getting past Neuer, and Barca failed to capitalize. It was the same at the other end as Lewandowski missed a sitter. Barca would hit back with Alves, but Neuer stood firm once again. Messi and Neymar linked up, but again, there was no getting past Neuer. But if there's one thing we knew from watching Messi throughout 2015, it's that Messi was unstoppable, and he'd always find a way when it mattered. He picked the ball up on the far side and rifled a shot past Neuer to put Barcelona ahead, and the entire Camp Nou was roaring. Minutes later, he'd run at Boateng and left him on his back, chipping the goalkeeper to extend his team's lead. At this point, it was clear, this man was literally the best. How do you do something like that in a Champions League semi-finals against a team like Bayern? Unbelievable. The second leg was equally entertaining, but Bayern were knocked out despite winning 3-2 to set up a finals with Juventus. In the finals, Barcelona overpowered Juventus, with the MSN being too much for the Italians to handle, beating them 3-1 to lift the trophy, and Messi and Barcelona were kings of Europe once more, finishing the season off with 58 goals and 31 assists. 2015 would also mark the birth of Messi's second son, Matteo Messi, blessing the Argentinian with a special gift, and the year was topped off with him being awarded with his 5th Ballon d'Or, putting him at the pinnacle of the sport once more. So at this point in his career, Messi was 28 years old, having around 458 goals, 5 Ballon d'Ors, and 4 Champions League. These numbers were put up in what many people call the golden age of football. Today's game doesn't have the quality football once had, so the players who are considered exceptional today should be able to outperform Messi stats since the game is easier. But instead, we see them struggling to even score 30 goals in a single season. The only modern player who comes close is Mbappe, who at 26 years old have about 298 club goals and a World Cup at the time of this recording. There's also Haaland, who have over 260 goals at 24 years old, meaning both would have to put up roughly 300 and 250 respectively to match Messi by they reach 28 years old. So yeah, I don't think we'll see another talent like Messi, and he will go down as arguably the greatest this world has ever seen. If you want a video with a breakdown of Messi after 2015, be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, please subscribe and like the video, as I'll be posting more very soon.